Hey guys, today we're going to be solving the longest substring without repeating characters problem. You're given a string S, and your job is to find the length of the longest substring without repeating characters. So find the length of the longest substring in some input string that has no repeating characters. So ABC would be one such substring because once you hit this A, now there's two A's in the substring. You can't have that. So you construct these substrings, and there I hit a B, so pretty much you would, let's just write this out here in our regular colored pen. A, B, C, A, B, C, B, B. You would build your substring. Okay, A is okay, B is okay, C is okay. Then you hit this A, so you have to start a substring, which is actually kind of confusing because this is also a substring. This is a substring. So you can build a substring any which way, really. But when you build your solution, you just have to keep that in mind. How are we going to do this? Well, the idea here is to obviously create a max length variable, set it to 0, and that will keep track of the maximum length of, or the length of the longest substring, I guess. So the max length, I call it. Then you're going to need something to store your substrings in. And you could use an array. I personally used a string. So just like a string called sub that's initialized to like an empty string. And then you're going to go through every character in for I'll just say for char in string. And that's assuming that our input is just called, let's just pretend it's called, actually, you know what? Let's call it S because that's what the problem is doing. So let's just go through this. Maybe we'll just go through the first example. A, B, C, A, B, C, B, B. That's our string for character in S. So we're looking at A. What do we want to do? Okay, well, we want to check if A is in sub, right? And if it's not, we just want to add it into sub. So if, not A, if our character is not in sub, then we will add it to sub. So sub plus equals character. Okay. Now, what if the character is already in there? Well, let's just keep going. We go to B, we visit C, and now let's say that we're at A. Okay, so our sub right now temporarily should be this, right? Our character right now is A. What do we want to do? Well, we want to say, okay, that's the end of that substring that started at the last A that I saw, and the beginning of a new substring that began at the character after the last A that I saw. So it's important to know where the last occurrence of a character is. So I'm at A. I want to know where was the last A that I saw. Well, you can do that with an index function. So this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this 1a is at index 3. We're going to ask where was the last a that we saw. And then we pretty much just want to like cut or slice, wink, wink, slice the array at this point. And this will kind of be our new substring, right? Okay. Well, how do we do that? Well, I could write it out, but honestly, it's probably easier just to read code rather than reading my crappy printing. This is kind of the premise behind this. And then at the end, I mean, every time you go through this loop, every time you go through this loop, you're going to want to check, like, you're going to want to set the max length to be... Okay, I'm not going to write it out. You're going to want to check that, you're going to want to set the max length, because every single iteration here, you're going to be changing sub, and sub is always going to be like a substring. So however big this thing can get is what max length is going to be. And then you're going to return max length at the end. So let's just look at the code here, okay? All right, so again, if the character is not, I call it, I screwed that up. This shouldn't be S, this should be sub. The naming is bad here. So, wait a minute. I didn't screw that up. Never mind. Forget what I said. Okay. It's just that I actually get the index here for some reason, even though I never use it. Let's actually get rid of that because it's just needless. Needless, I say. Get rid of that. Make sure it still works. I don't use I anywhere, do I? No. Okay. So for character in S, which is our input string, horrible variable name, by the way. Never use single letter variable names. Even for like little code examples like this. Anyways, okay. So if the character is not in our substring, we add it to it. And that's exactly what we've done over here. Else, we do this fancy thing. So we basically want to slice our array to be this. So I basically sub.index of character will be will give us the index position of A, which is 0. Okay. But we don't want to get everything starting at 0. We want to get it starting at everything beyond 0. So we add +1. And then the colon just means all the way till the end of sub. Okay? So it's basically going to give us BC. And then we're going to add the current character that we're at, which is A. So we're going to get BCA. And then, like I said here, you're going to, at the end of every loop, you're going to set the length. I called it length for some reason, not like max length. So we're going to set the length to be the maximum of itself or the length of the current substring. And eventually that will just give us our substring. That's our answer. I hope that made sense. Thanks, guys.